start at my notes. All right. Hi, my name is Monica and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I just like to talk on here. I don't know. I don't really have like a little special intro for you guys. But I am back, and this time I will be discussing what a lot of people on the internet are discussing right now, which is the alpha male podcast. Now, I was hesitant initially to make this kind of video because it kind of feels like it feels pointless. Like, I don't really, while I do love to watch reactions and I do love to watch like tea spills, I don't really want to be that kind of channel personally. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just find that it's not really like chasing current events and inserting my opinion isn't necessarily useful. Also, a lot of these type of channels within current events have a tendency to say things to get people's reactions and therefore kind of like use outrage marketing to bring more traction and therefore money in their pockets over to themselves. So I was hesitant to like hop on this because while it's very interesting and I do love to hear stupidity, I was like, I don't really want to add into like the 1,000,001 people doing this right now. But I was watching Miasaurus on YouTube, and Mia did like the video on the Alpha Male podcast as well. And one clip was from the Fresh and Fit podcast. Now, I kind of expected them to say certain things. The specific clip, I found it very interesting as kind of like a jump off point to kind of start certain discussions, which then sent me down a rabbit hole of finding that specific episode, watching the whole video, watching several videos, as well as watching several interviews and watching other people's reactions to it. And rest assured, I no longer have a brain. The rot has set in. I am septic. These are my last hours. So for that reason, if you guys could like the video and subscribe, I never asked that, but I'm just kind of like, I didn't put that much into making this specific video, but into the acquiring of information. I didn't have to subject myself to that. I really didn't want to, and I'll get into it. But I did it for you guys. So I hope that you guys enjoy this video and let me know what else you guys may want to see in the future and all of that. So let's get started. Okay, so I think a lot of people fall into the category that are anti this sort of content, fall into the category of like, boo, men suck, and for sure they do, but I'm also of the belief that all humans suck, and for that reason I consume a lot of content. As an artist, I'm a painter. For years I have been painting. I went to school for painting, so I've had my ears free. When you paint to fulfill deadlines, to pay your bills, you just need your hands. You don't need your ears. You're not like, you don't need to talk to anyone. Your ears are free. My ears have been free for a very long time, and for that reason I have consumed content upon content upon content. I have consumed so much content. They're gonna put this in the next DSM-5, the DSM-6 or whichever DSM we're up to. This chronically online disease that I have will be on there, and I will be eligible for the diagnosis. So I have been on all sides of the internet. I find internet culture very fascinating. I consume all types of content, from things that you may not expect me to consume to things that you would assume I'm aligned with based on the way I look and the content that I tend to produce myself. And for that reason, I like varied content also because of my background. I'm not very sensitive to a lot of stuff. I'm not sensitive to a lot of racist commentary. I'm sensitive to racism, but I'm saying like a racist joke. Like within certain people are like, no, we can't joke about certain things. I am of the belief, because I also love comedy, that if the joke is well constructed, there may be room. There's gray area. I'm not a black and white person. I do believe that there is room in the gray, and I do believe that comedy serves as a space to navigate certain conflicts and certain issues that we may have with our immediate surroundings. As a way to navigate pain and navigate injustice and all these kind of things. So I think there is space to make smart jokes. I love smart humor, whether it's misogynistic, whether it's problematic. I love a well-constructed joke because I can appreciate the logic, the ability to take something and flip it or to trigger a reaction that kind of illuminates something larger. what the Fresh and Fit podcast do is not that whatsoever. And also, please note, the Fresh and Fit podcast apparently have a tendency to copyright strike creators that talk about their content, which I feel like is the least alpha thing to do. If I was an emotional female that was PMSing and was angry, that's something I would do. If I was an alpha male, I would not do that. So please don't copyright strike me, please. I'm submissively begging you to not copyright strike me, because I feel like that's like a really lame thing to do, and it limits like conversation, and it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to call you guys, like, I'm not going to tell Fit that he's balding like everyone else is on the internet, because I, unlike others, am not interested in critiquing the way you guys look, because let's just be honest, these men aren't this way because of the way they look, because I have dated uglier men than them, and they have been wonderful people. These men are just this way we'll get into the reasons. So just to explain my understanding of the podcast, it's very bottom of the barrel as far as male podcasts go. I have listened to so many male podcasts. Some of them are really funny. They're my guilty pleasures. But like, you know, there's humor in it. It's like a certain reality. I think at the end of the day, and this is something that they talk about a lot on their podcast, like the reality of the situation, the truths that women don't want to hear. No. We'll hear stuff. I'll hear stuff all day, because it's like you're saying, we do oftentimes within cis heteronormative sort of constructs have different ways or have been socialized to view things differently. So I'm very fascinated by the conversations that you guys have amongst yourself, because it's very illuminating and it gives context to some of the how mystified like our interactions are. It's like, why are we communicating seemingly in different languages? And it's because of the ways that you guys tend to see the world that we don't get to hear on. And it's not because women live in this like fantasy world, like they were saying like they like to say on the podcast, that women live into like this Disney world or whatever the case may be, where we don't want to hear the truth. And that's why men do lie to women. It's because it's our fault, because we don't want to grow. I don't know, like it was very like weird. But I'm just saying all this to say that I do listen to a variety of content. I am not somebody that's highly sensitive, but I am somebody that's extremely intelligent. And for that reason, I do like a well-constructed joke. I like to hear people's thought behind things. I don't think these two gentlemen are not critical thinkers. They're not very deep thinkers. And like some of you may argue, no, duh, Monica. But I'm like, no. I think a lot of people just throw that out there. I'm not throwing that out there. Now, I will admit there is a lot to be said for consistent content creation, for putting out content, for being able to bring on multiple people and fostering conversation on a daily basis. I think that is a skill that not everyone has. However, some people have talent and some people are just annoying enough to continue persisting. You know what I mean? I think they are where they are because they have been annoying enough to persist. I don't think they are where they are because they offer necessarily a unique perspective on things. It was very bottom of the barrel humor. In the episode that I saw it in its full length, there were a variety of things that I was like, this isn't even like interesting or funny. I had to power through to watch it. And not because it was, I was triggered or this was making me upset. Not at all. It was just because it was painfully boring. It was painfully boring. One of the things that I find to be the most boring of all is their constant mentioning of the fact that they're going to get canceled. Oh, Twitter is going to clip this. Black Twitter is going to take this. Oh, we're going to get canceled again. We're going to get canceled again. There is nothing cornier than grown men clout farming. Like, they're just literally like, oh, let's say this. So this happens. Oh, they're going to find this. Oh, they're going to get mad. It was like really, really like annoying. And I was like, bro, just get to the content. Why are you purposefully trying to quote unquote trigger people? It just feels like it's very like if we're gonna do racism, just take it all the way. Oh my god, that's my final words. Not even, but just make a good joke. Like one of the girls that was on the episode that I was watching was Ecuadorian and Chinese, and like they were making like ling ling jokes.
And you said you're Ecuadorian and Chinese. How'd your parents meet?
So
who's Chinese, the mom or the dad?
My dad is Chinese. My last name is Chan. Really? Like, I look so white, and I understand that, but...
You met your mom at a taco stand, or what?
No. Oh. Ecuadorians, we eat ceviche, and
let's see if that goes on Twitter tomorrow.
Hey,
let's see if that one goes on Twitter tomorrow.
Yo, at least your name isn't Ling Ling.
Yeah, Ling Ling. know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. My name is Russian/Italian, yet my last name is German, yet my last name is Chinese. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I just like, but it looks so white. Bro. I'm like, come on, bro. Like,
So, wait, your mom is Chinese or your dad?
My dad is Chinese.
So I'm your dad and you're your mom. I'm like,
okay.
Hey, me love you very long time. You want to do this?
It's so stupid. I don't even know any Chinese.
All the night is my world.
We're canceled.
That's for all you politically correct motherfuckers out here. We roast everyone equally, bruh. Okay? You said, but that ain't gonna be on Twitter tomorrow.
Very much true.
Shout out to all my Ecuadorians and my Chinese.
The other girl that was there was like from Morocco and she was Muslim, and they just kept every single time, I mean it, every singular time she went to speak, there was not a time where she went to give her perspective, where she went to add anything in, where what's their names? We're fresh. No, we're fit. Sorry, neither. It's like, you know, when people have nicknames, their nicknames kind of relate to like sort of like things that you could see within them, that things that they symbolize. I'm like, neither of them respectfully are fresh or fit. So when I try to remember who's who, my mind doesn't jump to who. So fit every single time she went to speak would click a button, because they have like little buttons where, like, you know, it gives little sound effects. Every single time the Moroccan Muslim girl spoke, he clicked the haram button. Haram essentially means sin. So it's kind of like, oh, you know, having sex, haram, eating pork, haram. It's like essentially calling something sinful. Every single time she went to speak, he pressed the haram button, and it was like, ha ha ha, haram, like just like her being there is haram.
Hold on, I had to make an appearance because we got haram. We got some haram people in here. Okay, you, you're from Morocco, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then Zan, where are you from? You from Morocco too, resident? Lebanon, bro.
She's Lebanese.
This is super. That was the girl that came with that tank top, by the way. You know you're supposed to be covering your hair, not showing your body like that. You too, man. This is fucking. After this show, they're gonna get the honor killing, all right, guys? Because this is fucking haram.
I'm like, I don't know how many times. It's like, it's giving class clown energy. And the thing about the class clown is that they're not funny. They're just bullies. They're not funny. They're just the loudest in the room. They're not funny. They're just insecure. And funny enough, the whole premise of the episode was we're dispelling the myth of insecure men and small penis energy. None of that was dispelled. I think it was only further affirmed in my books. And sometimes because I was like wondering, who are the types of women that go on this? First of all, okay, so in preparation for this video, I also watched other content. So they were on the Flagrant 2 podcast with Andrew Schultz of Brilliant Idiots. I watch a lot of podcasts, y'all. Of the Brilliant Idiots podcast with Charlamagne. I've only seen it a few times. I haven't seen anything like that much. I haven't consumed Andrew Schultz stuff that much. But Fresh and Fit went on the Flagrant 2 podcast that Andrew Schultz has with other co-stars. And there they kind of talked about their controversy in regards to black women and them not liking black women. And they want to let y'all know that it's not all black women. It's hood black women. Which is just like, oh, thanks for the clarification. That only makes it worse. And other people on the podcast were making the point that you can say you have a preference without shitting on people. You could say, hey, I only like to date white women. That's kind of my preference. You don't have to say, oh, nah, not black. I may date a black girl just as long as she's not hood. And it's just like, and like they were just saying it as if that's nothing to kind of really like think deeply about or to like break down, or I don't know. They were on the podcast for that reason. But amongst all the things that they were talking about, they basically got to the whole premise of their podcast, or like one of the reasons why they could speak on what they speak to. Essentially, they were saying that they are qualified to speak on dating advice, on just people in general, because they have interviewed personally. They've had 1,000 women go on this show, and they speak to thousands of men. The people on this podcast made it clear to point out they were in a very specific location and they're very specific people. And then they said, no, we're not only getting girls from South Florida, they're also flying in from different places like Canada, other parts of America. They're coming to see us. So okay, so I don't know how if anybody is familiar as to how you get data and like bias, right? So like when you like do like any sort of like analysis, a study in a sense, you are very clear as to what pool of people you're pulling from. If the pool of people you're pulling from all happen to be somebody that has for a fresh and fit podcast on their radar, they're hyper specific people. We're not grabbing 20 random people off the street in the middle in a randomly selected location in the world to speak on their perceptions of women and dating and how those dynamics go. We're grabbing people that are either models that have something to promote, fans of the podcast, or friends of the models that have something to promote that's been on the podcast that also want to come on the podcast. So it's just kind of one of those things, like you're pulling from a very specific group of people. So when you're getting these people's perspective, what are they really adding that's very different than yours? Or where's the challenge? Also, Fit, I keep mixing up their names. Fit talks so intensely and like kind of like a bully. He jumps on you, and he kind of every single time within the video I saw that someone made a point that was actually good, he would either completely ignore it or just kind of be like, oh, well, you don't understand, and just keep it moving. So it's just kind of like, this isn't really like a space that fosters actual open dialogue about different perspectives. He keeps regurgitating the same information. Also, fun fact, if you're ever interested in how to gauge someone's level of like critical thinking in regards to any subject, do they keep regurgitating the same script? If yes, they're not really thinking very deeply about this. They already have their answer before you speak. So before a guest there really tries to counter any sort of like viewpoint or try to speak on their experience, they have already figured out a very specific worldview, which I'll detail in a moment. To finish this off, it's very bottom of the barrel. It's not funny at all. They thrive off of outrage marketing, and the type of people that they have on, I haven't seen, they have tons of videos where it's like ratchet chicks get into a fight and get kicked out or whatever. So maybe in those videos, women spoke up. Ratchet women, whatever, like what the hell, spoke up and they got kicked out. But in the specific one I saw, and very much in line with like some of the other clips I've seen, you're getting women that are there, you think they're really about to fight you when you're here clicking like these buttons that are calling them stupid, using the 6ix9ine stupid audio and like the haram audio, and it's just like, and all these other women are kind of quiet. Like I think a lot of men's, fun fact about something that a lot of men don't realize, a lot of women are performing. Most of us are performing. Have you ever been around a guy that thinks he's funny and he's not funny? You're just kind of like, I think a lot of men think that for them to not be liked, especially a lot of men that have really big egos or mask their wounded sense of self with arrogance, they don't really realize that they're actually not very interesting or entertaining or intelligent. You're just surrounded by a lot of women that are just like, hey, you're either gonna pay for this or do whatever, or I just don't really know how to speak up because I have a history of, as a woman in this society and within maybe the background that I came from, good things don't happen when I speak up. Violence against women is committed when they speak up. In this case, it wasn't physical violence, it's we're all gonna gang up on you and bully you. And everybody that's sending $50, $100 super chats is also gonna call you stupid. So if you're wondering who, like these guys are only getting views maybe because they're saying really flagrant stuff, right? No, they have men send them super chats. Super chats are essential, like essentially when you do YouTube live, you can send in like a message that gets displayed on the screen for a certain amount of money. So they read them periodically and they start maxing, like increasing the how much you have to donate for them to read. So in the beginning, they read anybody if you're donating $5, $10, $20 to write something like, yo, love the podcast, guys. $20 from Monica in the Bronx. That's me. But towards like at a certain point they're like, all right, we're only reading the super chats for that are $20 and up. So then people start donating $20. While watching that, people were donating like $100 like as well. Like they were donating a lot of money just to say, like, just to be like, yo bro, I'd suck your essentially, right? So not very alpha of you, bro. They didn't say it specifically in those specific words, but it's just kind of like, it turns into like a game of like men versus women, and I'm a back my boy. I'm gonna support my boy and my boy only because it's brothers for life. And it's just like, bro, you just gave $100 to this man. That's pretty weird to me. Okay, so to get into the general worldviews from what I dissected from the specific videos and other clips and other reactions videos and other interviews that they did on different podcasts. So something that they really tried to, I got notes if you guys hear me flipping through a notebook. Also, I have like pediatrician, like doctor writing. I literally can't read whatever. I'll be like feverishly writing like, oh, that's a good point. And then I'll be like, I literally can't read this. But something that they kept really trying to affirm within the podcast, and this is what I say, they just keep regurgitating the same kind of script over and over and over, is how women and men are polar opposites. They will never be the same. They have different motivations. They have different views. They are completely different, but women don't try to understand men. They don't want to understand that because they are living in a fantasy world. They have this like maybe Disney idea, and it's like, that's not what men live in reality, in the reality of gender roles. Feminism is a delusion. Gender roles are a reality. And he says this several times. So this is kind of like one of the arguments that he consistently goes back to, which I find very interesting. It's just kind of like, okay, cool. Within your worldview that men and women are totally different. They're diametrically like opposites. And women don't want to understand men. Would one then argue, would you agree that you are not trying to understand women either when you literally have 7 women at the table? Not many are outspoken, understandably so. If I was there and I really was just kind of blindsided with the topics brought at hand, or if I'm just somebody that's generally agreeable, and it's like, sure, like it's like, you know, within all the garbage that you're saying, there are things that are sort of true as well, like that I may agree with on a general basis. Like, yeah, men should provide, right? Like, that doesn't mean that I agree with everything else, but I'm not really about to turn into a debate club. So, and here's the thing about debate club, by the way, fun fact, as somebody that loves to be right about stuff, being right about something doesn't mean you're right. Wow, you may think that doesn't make sense. Being right is right. No, when you're having a back and forth with someone, this is something I've learned, right? That has added a lot of quality to my life and better dialogue within my relationships. It has allowed me to grow as a human being. When you're having a conversation about something that someone that you may be doing that is bothering someone, or that the other person has done, or just something that you're disagreeing upon, fighting tooth and nail to get your point across and winning does not mean that you were right, that you're absolved of like what you originally did, or of making a person feel a certain way. So still not, their names aren't clicking. Fitz is really good at speaking. He's really good. The bar is the basement, by the way. It's like, where I'm not trying to like be like, yo, that man is like godly with his like ability to like deliver a message. No, not at all. But the bar is very low, like completely. And I mean that with all due respect to the other guests on the podcast, at least within the episode I showed. It's like coming to the table with like all these different ideas with your script ready, and no one else knew that we were doing this today, and then barraging them with like talking points, and then being like, what do you think? And you're just like, I don't know, I just pulled up for some drinks and to be on the camera. I agree with you or I disagree with you. I don't really know. You clearly think about this 24/7. I can't really add much to it. So that's kind of like how all the conversations go. So within that dynamic, it doesn't inherently mean you're right. It just means that you just came more prepared, because this is literally your podcast and you talk about this every single day, clearly, like every single day. He's like a prophet. He's like the Messiah of women are supposed to be subservient. That's what he's like. He's a, like, for women in the West are stupid. That's what, like, he's the Messiah for. Like, he's Jesus Christ for, like, alpha male shit. Like, that's who he is. He's willing to die on the cross. And if you may be wondering, Monica, you're not really talking about Fresh. Fresh is be quiet. So here's what I've realized about their dynamic as well. They're both dumb. I feel like Fresh is like a brick. He's like, yo, like, this is just it. Like, yeah, like, there's something wrong with what I'm saying. Nah. Fit is more like, he has kind of like this nervous energy as they're doing the podcast. Like, he keeps like looking to the camera like this, and it's kind of like a wink to the viewer, like, oh, look, she's about to say something dumb. But it's also, he has very shifty energy. You can see him getting flustered and worked up as these women are like speaking. And like, sure, I can relate a lot to that, because as I get amped up, my body starts showing, like, the physiological, like, amping up of my thoughts. My thoughts are raising. I just want to go. I'm like a pit bull, roof, right? That's the energy that he gives. But it's just like, bro, why are you fighting so hard? I've come to realize that I'm a very emotional person, right? I used to think that I was logical because I was very good, quote unquote, at formulating my viewpoints. No, I am quite emotional, because the moment you try to tell me that what I believe isn't right, I either get combative or I get dismissive, which Fit does both. He either gets combative, which is just like, no, here's a whole bunch of like fake statistics or like different things that I like constantly regurgitate, or, well, that's your opinion, but that doesn't make it true. And that's like literally where it goes to. And it's just like, oh, you just clearly can't handle having an open like conversation where we can like both move forward and like, you know, see each other. Nah, it's just what he thinks. And for that reason, they're both man children. But you guys didn't need this whole breakdown to understand that. So the thing that I saw that for me was absolutely fascinating, and I saw as like a quote unquote teachable moment, right? I'm like trying to like make something out of this, because it's like I really didn't want to do this, but also I'm like, I did not just watch this much Fresh and Fit to not make some content out of this, honestly, because it's like, this is gonna be in my brain forever. There is a neuron in my brain that is specifically coded to the Fresh and Fit podcast. We're gonna get this out of here, like, because I can't just live with this and stay silenced. So in regards to the specific clip that I wanted to talk about, oh my god, there's so many things I want to talk about low key, because it was quite shocking. And it's not shocking because I was triggered. No, it's just shocking because it's just like, bro, like, what? So I think sometimes people don't really think critically about like the intersectionality of things and like why things happen. I feel like a lot of people tend to be ahistorical whenever they're talking about anything that they feel emotionally or the things that they've seen in their immediate surrounding. So for them, they feel qualified to speak about their viewpoints because they've spoken to people. Like I said earlier, they've spoken to a specific group of people. All right, so to give y'all the sample platter of some of their beliefs, because I feel like, I just want to say so much, I really won't get into everything. I'm just going to go down the list of a few of the notes that I took. So, Fresh and Fit talk a lot about wanting a woman who is compliant and submissive.
Yeah, with as far as like girls, for me, man, really what I need is
know your role and shut your mouth, because the people's champ is ready to talk.
That's pretty much all I need, compliance. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and
yo,
how has that been working out for you?
Huh? How's it been working out? Very good. No comment. No comment. All the girls hate me.
Okay.
Because I do that. But you know what? To all those girls that don't like what I say,
It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you think.
but no, I mean, compliance is really the big thing. If I'm gonna, besides the jokes, like just don't give me a headache and listen to what I say and we'll be good. I think if a woman can understand that she needs to comply with what her man wants, that's 80% of the equation, right there. I think a lot of women are combative and don't want to follow their man, and that's going to lead to issues down the road. And you can't build a foundation on you can't build a house on a fucked up foundation. And the foundation for a woman to be a good girlfriend and her wife or some kind of significant others, she's got to understand compliance and be in her feminine and submit to you as a man.
I find the word compliant to be very interesting because compliance is they want a woman to keep the peace, to be their peace, to be their peace, to not argue too much, to not do too much. It's just like, yo, just be compliant. Allow me as a man to lead. Now, while the women have brought up, not all men are good leaders. They're like, of course, but the ones that are, like us, are, just sit back, let us lead. So whenever I see somebody that wants somebody to be compliant, they want a dog, they want a pet, they want maybe under certain beliefs in terms of child reading, they want a child, they want to be like sort of like authoritarian within their intimate relationships, my way or the highway, essentially, because I know best. And what's the foundation for this belief? Gender roles, and I don't know what. For me, for someone to, and the reason why I say that they are insecure men, obviously there's a million and one reasons as to why one can make that argument. But for me, compliance is a very big tell as to their mind state. Specifically for Fit, because he's the one that's easier for me to read. He's in the camera more, he's doing more things, he has more little antics. He's more of like the entertainer. He's louder. He just wants, like, the camera is on him more. He's trying to really get people to react to him, to have some sort of like response to him. He wants a response. He was probably someone that wasn't responded to a lot growing up, so now he does whatever he can to get a response, to elicit a response from the opposite sex. So whenever I see somebody that wants compliance, so the dialogue, when you open yourself up to dialogue, what's that pedagogy of the oppressed? Quote, let me see, pedagogy of the oppressed. Okay, I remember now. I don't remember what specific part of the book, but dialogue is self-reflection. So within dialogue is not talking at someone. Dialogue is being able to listen, and they think it's not just like hearing you out. It's not being combative. Dialogue does not align with compliance, because compliance is like do as I say is authoritarian. Of course, there is like especially if you're trying to have a partner. If we're talking about dating or we're talking about relationship, compliance is a very odd word to use in relation to your life partner. That's what you say to a dog. When I say sit, you sit. I know best. You cannot tell me, a grown woman, to comply. Like, that's weird. We can agree upon things, we could talk about things, but compliance is a really odd thing to say. And they really make it clear that a feminine woman is his peace, complies and is submissive. Trust the leadership and control of a man. The cat's out of the bag. Not everyone's up for the position of leadership, and even if they were, a good leader is self-reflective. So within compliance, it's like the idea that like teachers also are students. They also are listening. It's a two-way street, and I think I'm really trying to like flesh out something that seems obvious, but I just really want to harp on the word compliance, because compliance is a really odd word to use. It's very authoritarian. Now, I'm saying all this, and they would say, but of course, everything I'm saying in regards to the issue is not the issue. It's just reality. It's just like women are just supposed to take what men are saying because they are the ones that know. They are the ones that lead us. They even said that that's why we are where we are today as a society, because of men. And wow, there's so many issues in the world, right? So, one of the reasons why I say that he's insecure and why this word for me is such a big tell is that when you are requiring compliance from someone, you are essentially removing any sense of self-reflection, of culpability, of compromise, of actual engagement, of actual dialogue from the dynamics of your relationship. You never have to confront the ways in which you made someone feel, the ways in which your own irresponsibilities affect others. Therefore, you are no true good leader if you demand compliance from someone. You are a dictator. You rule by fear. You rule by control. No one should feel controlled by you. They should want to be with you. It should be a partnership. It may be, I know they like to say that modern women shame women that want to be housewives. Housewife it all the way up, girl. Cook, clean, and wear an apron. I love that for you. We would all love that in a sense. At times, look, if you actually gonna take care of me and there's actual proof that you're actually gonna value me and respect the labor that it is to maintain a household, all the way, let's go. But that's not the case whatsoever. Also, even within the respect that a housewife is supposed to have, they can't even do the bare minimum of not cheating. Something that they continually talk about is that a high-value man needs to follow his biological urges and go out there and do his thing. Essentially, have multiple sex partners. And because women don't want to accept this reality, because we're just so darn emotional, that's why a lot of men cheat. Because it's like, look, we're trying to tell y'all the truth. Look how y'all reacting. I'm gonna just cheat anyway. And it's just like, I think this is like, look, no disrespect. A lot of y'all sound very fatherless. As someone that has a father, I got father privilege. Y'all sound very fatherless to me, because it's just kind of like, what is this like? And they also like to make the argument that those men that don't cheat on their partner is because they weren't high value enough to find somebody that would cheat with them on you. And look, I think within all types of relationships, there will come times where your commitment is tested. I don't think that has to do necessarily with biology and the fact that men just have this sperm that's waiting to just bust out their tip, right? And really like just dominate, to really just colonize, right? It's really not that. I think it's just, there's just times where you're feeling insecure, where you have certain sexual urges. And I think that monogamy, while it is a lot of our ways of expressing our commitment to each other, isn't 100% like perfect. I think there are people that can be polyamorous. I think there are people that can be monogamous. One of my theories is that it's like sexual orientation. Some people just are gay. I think some people just are polyamorous. I think these men probably want to be polyamorous, but where the issue lies is that within polyamory, it's not, I get to go be with whoever you want and you can't. It's a two-way street, because it's about respect. So within a lot of polyamory, and the reason why a lot of people, especially within queer communities, tend to fall into it, even if they are not seeing anyone outside of their partner, is because the basis of a good relationship should not be rooted in whether they cheat on you or not. Like, I feel like that's bare minimum. If that's the agreement y'all have to each other, like placing your whole like, oh my god, this is a good relationship, yeah, okay, I'm getting like abused in every single sense of the word, but he's never slept with another person, that's not a good relationship. And I think within a lot of like cis heteronormative relationships, we tend to be like, well, at least they didn't cheat. Also, we tend to be very possessive. I'm of the belief that I want my partner to have as much love in their life as possible. I want them to feel love for their friends, for their family, to have amazing, beautiful experiences. Just like I would hope that my partner has that for me. I think there's people that want to possess their partners. Like, I am your everything. I am your best friend. I think there's people that see their partner having a joyous experience. We're not talking sexual right now. Just a joyous, fulfilling life experience. And they feel that like tinge of jealousy eat them up inside, and they view that as a negative relationship because it's not in relationship to them, because a lot of us have grown up very insecure and lacking in validation. What they are talking about is not polyamory, it's just possession. It's essentially they're sheep herders. They have they're cow wranglers. They have multiple cattle. They have multiple things. It's like accumulation of goods. They're not talking about these women as if they're women. They're talking about these women as if they're objects. And the example is made very clear when they give their very famous Lamborghini example, or whatever, a Ferrari example. I don't even know the car that they mentioned. A car in general though, where it's like you wouldn't buy a Ferrari with 100,000, 200,000 miles on it. So why would you get a woman that's all damaged and used up and like has been through all this trauma? It's going to bring you that trauma, right? Where a man's experiences though show sexual prowess is just like, oh yeah, he slept with a lot of women, that means he's extra good at it. He's been through so many things, that means he has so much wisdom and can lead us. That like literally makes no sense. And I don't even like want to get into it because I'm tired and there's other things that I kind of built up this video for, but I'm getting wrapped up in all the other things that happened that were absolutely wild. Okay, so something else that they say is that women just can't be happy just like living their life. Like there is no happiness like in women. Like just if he's
I would say this. This is going to be controversial, so I'm just going to say it. Okay, I'm going to get hit with the
How dare you?
I honestly believe that a woman is at her happiest when she's serving a man that she loves, admires, and respects. Yes. Not from a career, not from making money, not from being successful, not from having college degrees. They get the most pleasure from having a man that they love, admire, and respect, serving him, being submissive, and having that man's children and taking care of those children. That's where women derive most of their pleasure from.
He doesn't, so one can make the argument, for example, we are at our true happiest when we find true love, like, right? Like, that's an argument you can make. I think, I'm of the belief that our goal on this earth is to love, is to really, truly love, to feel love in all its forms, from the romantic to the platonic to the familial, to have true, like, unconditional care for each other, to have a sense of community. So one could make the argument that we are truly fulfilled when we're in love. That's not what he's saying. He's saying when a woman is subservient to a successful man, that's when she will feel good. He also likes to say things like, there is no degree, there's nothing a woman can accomplish that will be as satisfying as serving a man. I think that's absolutely wild, because it's like, all right, let's just F academia, right? All the women that have made incredible findings, discoveries, life-changing, life-saving, world-altering, like, discoveries, they will never be as happy as they would be if they just put their career to the side, focused on being a mom, and got with a man. Like, that for me is just like, it's just like they know, they have to know. They are too grown. They are much, much, much too grown to know that this isn't like a thing. Like, this is like such a childish view, right? Super childish. And it's like, also at the end of the day, bro, they talking about marriage advice and all this advice from two single, unmarried, childless men. Just like they like to say, hey, once you're in a married relationship, stop taking like notes from these unmarried females to women. They're like, yo, once you marry, stop hanging out with your single friends, girl. Once, what are you guys listening to the Fresh and Fit podcast for if you're trying to find marriage, or if you are married and you're trying to use them to navigate your relationship? That for me makes no sense, because they literally have no experience in this. How could they speak truthfully to it? And their own like pool of like information is gathered from South Floridian women that have OnlyFans and just go clubbing. All peace and love to them, but we're talking about wives. They're talking about these are people that are on here for clout. This isn't like, we're not talking about family values. We're talking about why are hoes. Like, that's what the conversations are about. So this is just blowing my mind how they try to like present it as like, this is just the truth, and this is what a relationship is like. This is what a marriage should be like, and this is what a man does. A man is not on a podcast talking crap about women like this at the end of the day. All right, so let's carry on. So the whole reason why we're here is because they said,
that's where women derive most of their pleasure from. And that's why so many single women that have careers or whatever, 1 in 4 of them is on antidepressant medication or Xanax in the United States. Because women don't derive the same pleasure from career and earning money like men do. Y'all are not built for it. You guys are social creatures. You know, women tend to be more interested in people. Men tend to be more interested in things. And those people that women are interested in tend to be their family, you know, their husband and their children. So, you know, I mean, as women, I'll say this real fast and turn it to you. What I've realized, and they've done this with like approval ratings, as women have gotten more rights and privileges and accesses with feminism, their happiness overall has been going down versus like their rights going up. Versus if you ask women back in the 70s and the 60s, they had higher levels of optimism and higher appreciation rates for, you know, life, because you know, they tend to have more families. They were more married back then or whatever. But as women have become more and more independent, their levels of happiness have went down, which is very interesting.
Okay, so so I tried to find info on the fourth of single women are on antidepressants or Xanax. Couldn't find anything in relation to that. What I did find is that there is no quarter of the population on antidepressants. If a quarter of a population was on antidepressants, I think that would be a really big thing to talk about. A quarter of the American population is a lot of people. Like, a quarter of women is a lot of people. That is not the case. There is no research that points to that. The only research that I saw that was pointing to a quarter of something was an article from 2011 that I found on The Guardian that then sent me to the Huffington Post, that then sent me to a study from Medco Health Solutions, which was not on the internet. And when I looked up Medco Health Solutions, they no longer exist. And they were analyzing essentially prescription claims data from 2.5 million insured Americans from 2001 through 2010, where a fourth of the women were dispensed meds for mental health conditions. Something to take into consideration, 2001 through 2010 was the 2008 economic recession. So I would be taking mental health medication if I was an adult woman and I just lost my house. That's number one. Number two, the 2.5 million people that were surveyed were insured people, were people that were already in the medical system. We're not pulling from all of America. We're pulling from a specific group of people that are already likely taking medication. And of those people, granted, I can't even look at the study to see what this says, but this is the only thing that I could find. And it's just you're pulling from a group of people that are already taking medication. Of those people, a certain percentage of people are going to be taking mental health medication, because if you are using medication, you are likely going through different things. Like, for example, a lot of my family is chronically ill. When you're chronically ill, you also have a lot of issues. Fun fact, for example, when you have things like Parkinson's, like my grandparents have Parkinson's, your body stops producing dopamine. When your body stops producing dopamine, you literally need to get on antidepressants. So there's a lot of reasons why people get on mental health medication that doesn't have to do with them not having a husband, which is the whole premise of the 1 in 4 single women. There's actually studies that show that single women without children are statistically the happiest people in general, period. I'll post a study. So he also says that women don't derive the same pleasure from working as men because men are social creatures, which literally makes no sense, because it's just work is inherently social. To be a any businessman, for example, Wall Street bros talk your ear off. The tech guys don't know how to stop talking. And I'm not talking about the little silent little coder. I'm talking about the people that have stake in companies. Those 1%er, those high value men that they're talking about. Just like them, they are there is no unsocial person has 7 people on a podcast. If we're really talking about the social people, it's these guys. It's not me as a woman. Also, the human species is inherently social. It's literally what sustains life, having social dynamics that allow us to coexist and not die. So it's just okay, cool. And then he says women are more interested in people and men are more interested in things. Period. What are things? I don't know. But also in the same vein, I'm sure they have plenty of conversations about how women, all they want is things, the acquisition of goods, because that's what leads to survival. Essentially, these women are gold diggers. So it's who really wants the things? You guys are the ones actively chasing women genitalia, not me. Jesus, this is giving me gastritis right now. I feel my stomach lining inflaming. Let me drink some water. And then they go on to further explain that the people that women are interested in this dynamic that they just fleshed out for us, is their family, their that's a slip, not their father, their husband and their child. Cool, I guess. Okay, so let's carry on. So he says that as women have gotten more equal because feminism, according to approval ratings, I don't know what those approval ratings are, happiness has been going down. Women in the 70s and 60s had higher levels of optimism and appreciation for life because family or whatever, period, is what he says. Okay, so this is kind of like late in the game, several minutes in. We're talking about finally the reason why we're all gathered here today is the idea that in the 70s and 60s, women were happier because of family or whatever. This is like the most ahistorical take in the history of YouTube. Like these guys, these people in general, I love it when people just talk. And I think, that's like a really important part of just humanity. Just the ability to speak. Let's just talk. Like that's really what it all comes down to. We all just have opinions. Just listen to me. What lens are we using this to viewing this through? Because what women in the 60s and 70s were happier, that had more of an optimism for life, and the ones that did, it's for certain reasons that we're gonna break down right now. All right, let's get into it. So okay, so let's start with the waves of feminism, because apparently feminism has led to more unhappiness in women, period, because as they've gotten more rights, what are they going to do with all these rights, right? So I think it's very important to kind of get into the different waves of feminism for this one. I am no historian. I am no gender studies major. I'm not someone that's qualified to speak with expertise on this discussion, and I was gonna go and have a full script with detailed statistics, but I was like, you know what, they come to the table with nothing. Men, they come into the table with nothing except audacity. Why don't I do the same? I did some Googling though, but I'm just gonna so if I am incorrect about certain things, feel free to expound. All right, so within the first wave of feminism, and this is gearing up to something. I'm not just giving y'all a little history lesson for femsies. Within the history of feminism, there's first wave feminism, which is, I did look this up, from 1884 to 1920, which is suffrage, so women's right to vote. They granted that in 1920 by the 19th Amendment. However, Black women weren't given the right to vote. They were not given the right to vote until 1965. So within the first wave of feminism, one of its critiques is that it was inherently racist. They actively excluded Black feminists from the conversation, and a lot of them positioned their argument for women's suffrage as, Black men get to vote. Oh, why can't I as a white woman vote? I'm literally better than him. So for that reason, it was rooted in a lot of racism. But that's the first thing that happened, women's suffrage, boom. Then, second wave feminism started 1963 to apparently the 1980s, right? It started with the feminine mystique. The feminine mystique by, what's her name? By Betty Friedman. Sorry, I have really bad handwriting. The feminine mystique was published in 1963, and it was essentially a woman, it's just basically talking about how within our society, women feel confined to domesticity and to gender roles. So it's just we're literally trapped here. We have a lot more to offer, but we feel trapped essentially by these gender roles. So within a lot of the fight, it was for equal pay. It was for the not seeing being a housewife as a career, but an actual let's actually have careers. Also fighting for reproductive rights, Roe v. Wade was passed and all that kind of stuff. And then alongside with that, a lot of women also recognize, hey, this feminist wave is also inherently racist. So then you had a lot of Black feminists starting their own movements. This isn't a comprehensive history of feminism. I apologize. But I'm only saying these things to say that Black women and women of color and immigrant women have never not worked historically. So within a lot of second wave feminism, when a lot of people think feminism is, which is just women's right to vote, we don't want to be in the kitchen. Black women have always worked. since before the creation of this country, since the boats were landed in the Hispaniola first, and then the different islands of the Americas, and then the American landmass, women have worked. There has never been a time where Black women have not worked. It is not like, it's not the norm within a lot of the family dynamics for the wife to stay at home and make a big pie for daddy. Like, it was never that. Like, it's like your mom's literally at home. It's literally at work. Like, so I don't understand where this idea of like family is coming from, or like this like fantasy of like the stay-at-home wife, that like women were happier within like, who is he talking about? Is he talking about white women? I don't know. So that was the first thing that bothered me, is like, and that's one of the issues with second wave feminism. It's like, this is only one side of the picture. Y'all are here fighting to work. We've been working since the beginning. It's not only like that we're confined to domesticity, is that we're not even seen feminine enough to be protected. We've been working. So there's that. And then third wave feminism came in the 90s, which like added in inclusivity, or like intersectionality rather. So it's like, yes, you are a woman, but there's white women, there's Black women, there's immigrant women, there's queer women. Like, there's all these different intersections that come with different privileges that inform your experience in different ways. So a white upper class woman is very different than a Black lower income woman as far as privileges. Yes, we all struggle with wage gaps or whatever the case may be, but ultimately we are talking about different things, girl. So that's I only say that to say that when we talk about the 60s and 70s, I don't even know why I'm giving like this much, like, you know what I mean, like to like some man's like blanket statement, but some people really talk about like the dissolution of the nuclear family as if like they're white. When was your family nuclear? Respectfully, I don't know your background, but within our communities, when was our family ever nuclear? Like, so in regards to this specific argument I'm making, I found this really interesting article. I'm Dominican. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I found this article from 1997 by Mirta Ojito called "Dominicans Scrambling for Hope as Poverty Rises, More Women Head the Household." So it was essentially talking about how a lot of these immigrant Dominican women are essentially the heads of the households. The statistics that they quote from different studies that the New York City had done at the time, and this is specific to Dominicans, but this is showing one of the intersectionalities: immigrant women of color, low income, and the different struggles and hardships that they face. This is 1997, but if you just talk to anybody in your family or anybody that has like a similar like upbringing, they could speak to this. While anecdotal, it does quote certain statistics. So studies show how poverty among Dominican households in New York City is rising with the increase in the percentage of households headed by women. One released last month by professors from City College and Columbia University, and based on an analysis of annual census surveys, found that 49% of the city's Dominican households were headed by women. Half of the city's Dominican households were headed by women. So 49% of the city's Dominican households were headed by women, compared with an average of 25.6% for the city as a whole. At the same time, the study found that the poverty rate among Dominicans, 45.7%, was almost double the overall poverty rate in the city last year, 23.8%. These two go hand in hand, said one of the two principal research professors. When there are no fathers at home and when there are no good paying jobs for women, there's going to be poverty. Now, Fresh and Fit can argue, yeah, but like I'm a good man, so and we're trying to be good men, so of course there's gonna be fathers at home. But here's the thing. The woman who this article is about says, in our culture, the men are supposed to be providers, she said. When the men can't do that, when they try and can't find jobs, they simply pack up and leave. Better to do that than face the daily consequences of their failure. It happens back home, and it obviously is happening here too. And then it's the women who have to pick up the pieces. So these women haven't become these quote unquote strong, suffering women because of feminist movements granting them more rights. It's because of the dissolution of two-parent households. Now, I will not go as far as to say we have to blame men for this. I think within these arguments, it would be more helpful to talk to men about the systemic issues that have led to the dissolution of their own homes. It's less so about feminism is making these women too dominant, so I'm gonna just leave her. Like, it's not that. It's literally like what she's saying. Like, they have been raised to provide, to fall into this idea, this belief, this fantasy that if they don't provide, they are not men. And when there is only black and white, it's either you're not a man or you provide. And guess what? You can't provide. I'm leaving is what has happened, right? And it's like, it's not because they can't provide for lack of trying in most situations. It's literally like your back's against the wall. There is all these really intense pressures, and everybody around you is not talking about what's important. So when people tell men to be vulnerable, we're not telling them to just cry for funsies, because it's like, you're scaring me. You're too dominant. It's literally like, bro, like, yo, you're all struggling, and barbershop talk is literally like, nah, bro, because when I get my first meal, you've never had a job. You literally still sleep on your mom's couch. That's a conversation men should be having. You have 2 different baby moms and you don't have any work experience and you're not trying whatsoever to see the reality. But you're like, yo, this bitch stay on my line. But when I get my first meal, she gonna see. This is not happening. This is a delusion. Men live in a delusion. Men are delusional. And it's not even, look, it's like, it's not, I'm trying to be clear. This is literally the problem of capitalism, especially within our communities. We're talking about people that are coming from having no capital. The reason why white people, and I'm not even trying to create like these big distinctions or like make a war out of this shit, but the reason why white people objectively have moved further in this society than people of color, than black people, than Native American peoples, Jesus Christ, is because they were able to enter the game way further ahead, and beyond the head start that they got, they also came through the game with capital. They can't, do you know what just having a little bit of money to start a business does? It creates a business. When you have just the ideas and you're stuck in your 9 to 5, or you're stuck with several jobs, and now you got these kids and you a single mom, and then you got evicted, now you in the shelter system, and then where's the dad at? He's at the barber shop and he's sleeping with a bunch of women because that's how he feels like a man. This is because a woman's dominant? Like, it's the delusions for me, right? So I think it's like really like it's very harmful rhetoric. I'm a big believer that men should have spaces for themselves, because it's like, at the end of the day, while I do believe that we have more commonalities than we like to talk to, at the end of the day, there is the reality of society. Society still exists. There's still different ways within which we have been socialized that affect our worldviews. And for that reason, sometimes when we communicate, it comes out differently. And the other quote unquote side might not be as like, open to it. They don't really understand what we're trying to say. So sometimes it's good to be around people that understand inherently what you mean, inherently where you come from, because you guys have been socialized in the same way. So by all means, men, have your conversations, have your spaces. But the reason why I said earlier, these sound like a lot of fatherless men, is no dig to people that grew up without fathers. Because a lot of people, like, that's like, it's not your fault, you know what I mean? But I say that to say a lot of people have not had positive male figures in their life. And then they grow up and they get their big boy pants on and they think they are man enough to tell women what to do. And that it's their fault for stuff. And it's like, it's not even about fault. It's realizing the ways that we all have been played. So if you're talking about the dissolution of these, like the nuclear family of good submissive women that want to just be good and listen to their man, it's like, first of all, a lot of us have never had a man to be a positive example in our life. We're just supposed to take your word for it because you be clubbing every night in Miami and go to yacht parties and hang out with Akon's brother.
What's that? Yo, you know what's funny? I was with Akon's brother yesterday, right? I showed him the yacht. He's like, bro, this shit's lit.
Like, are we crazy? Are we 13? Like, this is like such childish behavior. Like, I'm like, I really don't understand. This is not to help men. These are a bunch of men that are mad by the way they were done by women growing up. They didn't feel powerful. They didn't feel in control of a situation. Not only because the way women treated them, but because the way life treated them. As intelligent, as talented as they felt in the moment, life let them down and they weren't able to move forward. They wanted more out of life, and when they wanted more, that wasn't reciprocated, so now they take it. And because they take it, everybody has to pay for it now, and it's so annoying. It's so annoying. It's really so annoying. It helps no one. It really only leads to angrier men, which leads to more violence. When a man feels like he's failing at being a man, all hell is gonna break loose. That's on period. So we were able to kind of be like, yo, bro, you know, you got a baby on the way. This girl is like really annoying and you didn't really expect this to happen, but she wants to keep it, and you have never had a job and you've only done things, you've gotten ways and money in unconventional ways, and now you have all this pressure to be a father. Yo, bro, I know of this one trade school that could teach you certain skills, or you and her can come together because both of you are really good at, she's really good at sewing and you've always been good at art. Y'all can like make a small business rather than be like, man, fuck that bitch, she trapped you. Like, it's so like not, it's like living in a delusion. And for that reason, the Fresh and Fit podcasts are only leading to more delusional men is the issue. The issue, yo, bro, your issue is never that a woman don't want to listen to you. It's that we some haters and we not accepting reality. It's that you're spewing out toxicity. You're spewing out like delusions as to what men are supposed to do and women are supposed to do. And sure, the argument at the end of every single, the argument that you always say is, oh, well, some men obviously don't know how to lead, but I do. That's why I'm a valuable man and I need to just sleep around whenever I want. It's like, nah, bro, that's not like, it's like, clearly you're not. You're clearly not. If you're not able to see how childish you are, you're really not him. I promise you. So anything else outside of that? Let's just keep talking about how unhappy women were, because it's just like, at the end of the day, bro, like even like during the 60s and 70s, like hello, we're literally in the middle of the Vietnam War. We are in the Cold War. World War II just finished. Mad women lost their husbands. It's like I'm like confused as to like what lens we're talking about. The happiness of women. 80s came through, crack epidemic. Let's continue destroying the black home. Like, I'm perplexed as to like when these women were happier. I really am. And at the root of everything, not to be that person, but to be that person, is capitalism. It's the fact that everything was taken from us for these major corporations. Our started with, we didn't even get to start in the game. We literally haven't started. Yes, the legislation has passed that has proved we're all equal. And I'm not even talking about women. I'm talking about black people, people of color. I'm talking about immigrants. I'm talking about all marginalized folks, queer folks, everyone that's marginalized. We just started the race, even that. I would argue that we haven't even started the race, but let's say that we just started the race. We're coming through with nothing in our pockets, bro. So I'm like, who are you talking to about this get the bag and do this and do that and get the girls and be on the yachts? Like, this is a delusion, bro. Like, it's really absurd. Also, to bring it back to the whole men are supposed to be like, biologically speaking, men are supposed to be like these like dominant and have like multiple partners and all that kind of stuff, and women like are supposed to be like good and at home. It's like, I think a lot of y'all don't really realize the long history also goes hand in hand with women being unhappy, when there were, I'm sure, the most marriage rates back then, when like, it's like y'all literally can't get divorced because as women you have no rights. Women were literally, I'm talking about like white women history, of course. I don't know what black women were doing during these times, but it's like white women were literally sent to like psych wards for his quote unquote hysteria. And hysteria was literally qualified. Let's get into the symptoms of hysteria, right? Like, you could literally send your wife away for being hysterical. Hysterical was the symptoms of hysteria were defined as a swollen abdomen, suffocating angina, which is chest pain, or dyspnea, shortness of breath, dysphagia, difficulty swallowing, cold extremities, tears and laughter. Like, you know, you like wilding, you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. To the psych ward you go. Cold extremities, or I already said that one. Oscitation, yawning, pandiculation, stretching, and yawning, delirium, a close and driving pulse, and an abundant and clear urine. Girl, you peeing so much, you're getting locked up. Heavily medicated, all of that fun stuff. Women were just getting locked away. It apparently only got taken out of the DSM, like the diagnostic manuals that doctors use to diagnose patients, in like 1954. So it's like up until 1954, this was an actual issue. And do you know one of the ways in which it was actually addressed? Hey, doctors would literally masturbate their patients. Boop, 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 boop. Yes, they would literally masturbate their patients because it's like they were so pent up. And it's like, wouldn't you be if your husband literally is just like this weird tyrant that is like, thinks like, yo, you're expressing too much emotion? You're going to the psych ward. Sending someone to prison is literally the most emotional reaction I have ever heard in my life. Like, what the hell? I don't think we talk about enough how the true emotional queens are men. Like, this is absurd. So, So there's that. They would literally lock up women for that. Also, even with this, so I think a lot of people have this like old-timey like housewife idea. Once again, this is white history because once again, black women, immigrant women, women of color were working. They were not at home. They were working. White women, the white housewives, watch Mad Men. Like literally like that whole like prim and proper and a meal every day and the kids are washed up and everything is perfect. They were on baby they were on baby meth, bro. These women were on meth essentially because part of important in the culture at the time was a certain physique to be very slim. So everybody was taking dieting pills, which literally had meth in it. To be at that level of like labor at home, your husband's out all day working, whoring, partying. You are literally from sun up to sundown, taking care of kids, doing the shop, cleaning the house. You look to a T, bro. You made up from head to toe. You're doing this shit with a girdle on and heels. You have to be on drugs. You literally, and it's not like, yo, I was so busy today. We're going to eat ravioli. We're going to eat SpaghettiOs. We're going to eat Chef Boyardee. No, we're talking about full 4-course meals. You had to be on drugs. These women were drinking from sun up till sundown, popping pills. Like this idea, this delusion of that. They also, during that time, was some of the highest rates of mental illness pills, however you want to define that. Like everybody was literally on some sort of tranquilizer, amphetamine, or like literally anything to subdue like the fact that they were living in a literal prison of conformity. While your man got to do anything he wanted. And it's like, oh, I worked so hard to provide. And also, let's even talk about the 50s, by the way, and like the 60s, especially if you were white. Like, bro, you could literally be a blue-collared worker, vacation. You could literally, one person earning money. You could own a house, own 2 cars, dress your family and kids, and send them to college. That is no longer a reality. Inflation, while house prices have skyrocketed, our rates, our general like earnings as workers has stayed essentially the same. So I think that would be a more fruitful conversation to have with your male audience, which is just like, yo, if you're not feeling like him, you're not feeling like the big, strong provider, it's kind of not your fault. It's literally the fact that we are being choked without us realizing, and we think that the hand is women. No, the hand is the American government. The hand is greed, is corporate greed. Like, I like these conversations that are had on these podcasts have helped literally no one. And yes, they say, yo, they have helped men come back from the reins of offing themselves. Kudos. I think like, you know, like whatever helps with your mental health. But at the end of the day, like you're only further feeding them a delusion. I think this kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of the conversations around like these toxic male speakers. Like for example, Jordan Peterson. They're just spewing fucking basic self-help. Read oneself. Read The Power of Now. And any of them. Go to the self-help section at Barnes & Noble's. Pick any one of these books. Literally any single freaking book. Google self-help once. It's all the same stuff. It's literally all the same stuff. It's eat right, sleep well, take care of your body, come up with goals, work hard. It's literally all the same stuff. You guys are just reinventing the wheel, and this is like a worse wheel somehow. So yeah. Any last points? A wrong clock is right 2 times a day. Just like all things, everyone's an expert in their own life. So they can speak well enough to what they've been through better than I can, of course. You only know as much as you know, and you can speak to that truth. So with that being said, it only benefits us as biased interpreters of reality to take in other people's perspectives and use that to build a more open, worldly, inclusive, and joyful view of the world. I think this pitting men against each other and women are polar opposites and they're just coming to take something from you and blah 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 it's living in hell. It's making hell on earth. If you're looking at your woman and you're like, yo, she has an Instagram and she's going outside with a short dress. She's gonna be taken. She's gonna cheat on me. It's like, bro, you're living in literal hell, and I think you need to start journaling and like hanging around like different people. Like, I genuinely mean it. I think your life will be better if you are just able to kind of like tone it down and have a little bit more empathy and like just listen to the women in your life. Not everyone's out to get you. And hopefully at the end of the day, I don't wish ill on nobody. I really hope that with time they grow and they find different perspectives that fulfill them. And yeah, like, I don't know. This is the video. Thank you so much for watching. And it's time for me to go outside. I'm about to go outside for the first time in so long. I haven't been outside in so. That's why my hair looks so whimsical. I look like I'm on Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I live in Whoville. It's giving Whoville. All right, thank you so much for watching and have a good one.